our next episode, and I thought it would be a great idea to actually interview someone that has been here for a really long time. And Ross Gannon here is a really big part of our community. He owns a beautiful farm in the area, and we wanted to give the inside scoop from a farming perspective on what life is really like for a farmer. Ross, tell us what it's really like.
Well, I've been here for 30 years. I planted some nut trees in 88. It was Mother's Day actually, and we had a family picnic, and we started to plant trees back then. And since then I've seen the ups and downs of farming. The prices was quite reasonable when I started, but then probably about 9 years ago the prices plummeted, and I was looking for a way out of the industry. But no one was interested in buying at that time. But things have turned around now. I think it's gone from about $1.80 a kilo now to about $6 a kilo, and my production's been up around the 80 tonnes a year.
Amazing.
So it's been fairly good here, and I've produced in 2013 I think I was one of the best growers in Queensland and New South Wales.
That's why we've got you on here.
Per hectare. So, I came
How many trees have you got here?
I've got about 7,000 trees over about 24 hectares.
Yeah, amazing. And the daily life, so for those people that are thinking of, I'd love to move to Byron or Myocum, which is where we are, and own a farm or start a farm or buy a block and do, whether it be macadamias or cattle or whatever. What is the daily life of a farmer like Ross? Like, how hard do you work?
Well, I feel that I do work fairly hard, and I've over the years, I think I've probably almost worn myself out working. I think things are getting a lot easier now. About 5 years ago they changed the way they actually sent the nuts to the processor.
Okay.
Once we had to have a resort system where you'd pick the nuts up, put them in the silo, then bring them out again, sort them out, and then send them, and they would only take the best quality nuts. But now you can actually pick the nuts straight up off the ground, put them in the silo, and then send them to the factory, and they do most of the work over there. So that's probably reduced our labour by about half.
Wow.
So,
How many staff have you got?
Well, I've only got probably my wife used to help out in the dehusking thing once, and someone else used to work probably casually, but mainly in the nut harvesting season.
What do you love most about living in the area? And I mean, being a part of the community, you've seen the changes in the people and the landscapes and all of that, but what do you love about the Shire?
Well, I think that if you probably travelled around New South Wales and Queensland, there's probably very few places that are as picturesque as the Byron area. What I really like about here is that I've seen inside my gate, I've seen very little change in the last 30 years. As far as when I come home, it's a piece of paradise. We've got plenty of native animals here. We've got even snakes. We've got goannas. I've got wallabies, koalas, all those things visit us occasionally here.
And what's the most surprising thing that, for someone that doesn't know a lot about macadamia farming, what's the most surprising thing about macadamia nuts that someone wouldn't know?
Well, I think most people know they're the hardest nut to crack. It takes quite some time to get a crop. They're probably, even now with the newer varieties, you won't probably see a nut before 3 years on a tree. And at the moment there's a huge demand for trees, and it takes you probably 2 years if you get on the list just to get nut tree. And they're probably around $20 a tree at the moment. So that's one thing that's a bit harder to take on when you're actually thinking about growing nuts. It's a lot harder than cattle work. You only run the cattle in once every 2 or 3 months.
You used to have cattle
I've had cows. I've also been a farmer in the Riverina. I've grown rice, wheat and sheep, cattle and that. But I thought that macadamia nuts for a while was probably one of the hardest industries I thought I was in, the way it is, but certainly freed up a lot now. But there's a lot to it as far as, well, one thing is the trees keep growing.
Yeah.
and they have to be pruned, and then eventually you have to reduce the size of the tree if you want to maintain your yield.
Really?
And so you don't just plant a tree and then there for the next 60 years
Yeah.
you're going to pick nuts up off it. Eventually you'll get no nuts off that tree. Take a fair bit of fertiliser and all that type of thing. So you can constantly, insects, attacked by insects, you have to spray. It's all right to say organics is the way, but the organic farmers in the northern rivers have just been about wiped out in the last couple of years through insects. You might get $6 a kilo for your nuts as organic, but if you don't get any nuts, it doesn't matter what the price is, you don't make any money. So
absolutely.
that's what, you know.
And you've just secured some land elsewhere, and you are going to continue the macadamia, or start another macadamia farm.
My son's started to work for me here now, or with me, I should say, and we've bought some more land. So there's a great interest in the macadamia industry throughout the world. There's a lot of nuts being grown in China and Vietnam, although they're still only less than I think 3 or 4% of the world tree crop nut. So there seems to be hopefully a big future for macadamia nuts.
So a lot of work ahead of you and your son with this big piece of land that you've just bought then, starting from scratch?
Well, yes, I'm hoping to do less work, but probably not. So I'm trying to get out of that. Yeah.
And now let's have a look. So from the tree, these are honey roasted macadamia nuts.
They're not honey roasted on the tree.
No, that's what they end up being.
That's
so
some of them. Honey roasted nuts.
Some of Ross's nuts.
Yeah, well, there's probably one of mine in there. I'm in a cooperative and I send all of mine in there, so there could be 1 or 2 of my nuts in there, but as a whole,
Fantastic. Oh, well, look, thank you so much for your time, Ross. We're going to have a really good look around the farm here today. So before we go, any tips on someone that's looking to make that move up to the Byron Shire and buy a farm? What would you say?
Any tips? Well, it's like any business, I suppose. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. And I think in farming, really, you have to probably spend a fair bit of money before you're going to get any back. You know, if you looked at macadamia nuts, say you're about 2 years waiting for a tree, 3 years before, that's 5 years before you're going to get any money. At $4 a kilo, well, $5 a kilo, say, you're only going to probably get a kilo a tree at that age, and it's just not a lot of money to cover your costs because you need a fair bit of machinery. I think I've got 3 tractors and a couple of Toro mowers and a lot of other stuff as well, so you need to feel, but I've been buying those over 30 years, but even so, then you need a lot of stuff. So it's worthwhile. It's got a freedom of lifestyle, I think, in a beautiful area, but you still have to work it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, move here. They need to have a business idea or something, to make a living. If they're coming from the cities, it's often that we'll make the move when we can work out what we're going to do for work, because they're coming from high-paying jobs in the cities. So farming is a good option if you've got muscles like Ross does. Thanks for your time, and let's have a look around the farm. Thank you, Ross.